Okay, so now I've got a couple open-ended questions. So if you could just type something that you're happy that you learned today. Hillary, I know you got to go. Did you answer or you did? Okay, I didn't know if we were going to wait the extra couple minutes.
Yeah, it's funny. It only let me use one word. I was trying to say like, oh, I like the story and that incorporated the music, art, and drama.
Oh, really?
Oh, it did. Perfect.
Okay, so the art activity, the story, including the art. Yeah, I'm happy you shared 3 activities to go along with the story. Are there, sorry, I realized that for that summary paper that we have to write, it's a lot on discussion, and with Kahoot, it kind of limits the discussion for us. But I was wondering if you could just like unmute yourself and tell me if you know any other ways that you could integrate these activities or stories, or what grade you would choose these stories for, or these activities for, sorry.
Well, I think you could integrate, it's just depending on the story you use. I don't have a specific story, but I feel like throughout any grade from kindergarten to, let's say, grade 6 to what we can teach anyway, you could find multiple stories, and any of these activities, like I know this was very art-based, but I think with students, especially with a wide grade range, you could incorporate any sort of art-based activity with any of these stories. And that'd be really, yeah, I don't know. But
yeah, I think like Abigail said, it depends on the story. But when you were talking about it, you started talking about the drumming for the music, but it also made me think you could have made the drums with the art activity. So I'm like, there's so many different like ways you could have, like, you can connect the story in so many different art activities and drama and music. I didn't really think about drama too much, but when you said music with the drums, I'm like, oh, and you could have made the drums with the elderly person too. Like you could have had that person like teach you how to make it, and then you could have used it. So it could have all connected, but that's the way you did it too was like really cool, and I liked that it took different aspects. So
I will also add one more thing, but when you were talking about cultural appropriation as well, I actually had like not like a little stint, but on my last placement, we were talking about, oh, what could we do for art that incorporates like Indigenous education, and I remember suggesting maybe like making dream catchers. And like I remember my AT was like, no, like we can't do that, la la la. And I felt so bad. I was like, oh no, like, oh yeah, is that culture appropriation? Like making something like that? And she's like, basically spot on what you said. Basically, having someone come in, it would be way better to teach that, because it is something that is more of like traditional teaching, and it's very like spiritual. So I love that you talked about culture appropriation as well, because
I doing this presentation and trying to come up with activities avoiding cultural appropriation, I found actually it to be quite difficult, because that's the last thing that I want to do, is to just disregard or offend and teach it not correctly. And I'm finding that there's a lot of barriers to it. And I really hope when I become a teacher that the school board I work for helps with resources and is knowledgeable on the history, so that I can find places where I can bring in elders and do these kind of activities. And I think it is quite a barrier right now. And I don't know if that's just what I have in my head, that bringing in these resources is going to be difficult. And I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. And then I just have one more question. Is there still something that you're curious to learn about? Okay, so stories for different grades and activities changing and finding more stories and activities. Yeah, I agree. I feel like when I was researching this, I only really found two main resources, which was the one that Doe showed us, and that was like quite last minute because I had never seen that, and still like there weren't that many art and music resources yet, and the drumming one was bringing in an elder, and the other resource was the Toronto Zoo resource. But I found it difficult to find just elders telling these stories. Like I couldn't find any videos, and I think that would be very cool to find, so that instead of myself just reading the story, I could actually have an elder like from a YouTube video telling a story. Yeah. Do you have any ideas of, do you have any resources or places that you, or like websites that you found activities for Aboriginal education?
I know when I was on my last placement, like they were very into like Indigenous education, like the whole school, especially with this alternative placement. But like the librarian was super helpful. And I know my AT would go there all the time. So I think just depending sometimes like where you get landed, like wherever you get a job, you really want to talk to the librarian because they can probably help you find a lot of really cool stuff.
Mhm.
I know it's a very limited resource, but going to someone that actually might be able to help you find those resources would be really
Mhm.
helpful. But then, yeah, finding websites, I can't think of any right now on top of my head, but
Yeah. I have a list of the resources that I use, like a bibliography. I just haven't like put it into APA format yet. So when I do that, I'll put it into the slideshow, like the YDJ slideshow for this. But yeah, do you have any other questions about the assignment? Sorry that we're about 10 minutes over in time.
no, it's okay. No, that was really good. Like you did a really good job. I
No,
thought it was very
really
well
good.
done. I love the activities. Like I haven't thought about activities for mine yet, so now I'm like, okay, I can start thinking. So I'm glad I
Yeah,
got to see someone that actually incorporated some in theirs.
awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.